What's up, y'all? And we are back with another episode of the Imperfect Marriage. I am Lady Miz.
I'm Ray.
And y'all know what we do, y'all. We here to talk about relationships, marriage, and all of that, all of the above. Again, I always tell y'all that it's not a one-size-fit-all type of thing. And at the end of the day, no one and nothing is perfect but God, okay?
I'm perfect.
Okay, God.
Girl, it's easy to love me now. Would you love me if I was down and out? But you still have love for me. Girl, it's easy to love me now. Would you love me if I was down and out? But you still have love for me.
Yeah, we're just back again with another episode, and today I want to kind of pick up where we left off about just briefly touching on fear, um, fear of why people stay in relationships. So, if you're seeing us for the first time, right now, what I'm doing is I'm going through the chapters of my book, which is a very short book. The book is available right now on Amazon. It is called For the Sake of. Why do people stay in relationships? For the sake of what? I'm going to be going through this, and we're actually going to be having discussions based around this. It won't be totally all about this, but we're going to pull from this, and that's how we're going to start our conversation. So last time we left off, we were talking about fear. One of the things that I wanted to touch on that is in my book, right, was some people stay in relationships because of fear, and they don't know how to be alone, right? So there's a small part that I'm going to read, and it says, this fear can manifest in various forms within a relationship, such as the fear of solitude, resistance to change, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. Personally, I have experienced each of these fears when debating the decision to stay or leave. So, let's talk about that really quickly before we move on to the next. I want to start with fear of solitude.
Feeling solitude. Now you know what if being in a relationship is just you don't because you're comfortable because you left that out.
What do you mean?
Some people get in a relationship and they're just comfortable.
No, it's in there.
Is it?
I just didn't.
Oh,
I read one little section.
Yeah.
I'm only reading this. I'm not reading the whole book. I want them to go get the book.
Oops. Go get the book.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, this is just to
Okay.
discuss.
Okay.
So
Fear of solitude?
yes.
I don't know. What would fear of solitude feel like? Being in a relationship and just not having anybody around? Or maybe I guess that would fall under the guise of being comfortable. Because if you're comfortable, then you don't want to be alone. That
Right.
solitude will, that fear of being by yourself. But then I mean, when you say fear of being solitude, that's got to be a real fear because you're also putting yourself down when you do that. Because now you're saying that you're not capable of meeting somebody that could be good to you.
Basically, well, there are some people who stay because they think that they're not worthy. Think about women that stay in relationships that are abusive. And I don't want to be one-sided because there are women that could be very abusive too. So think about people. I'll retract that and say it like that before they come for me on this dirty little internet.
Yeah.
Think about people who stay in relationships, right? Because of solitude, and they are being abused. They're, being talked to. I'm talking physically abused. I'm talking mentally abused. And they stay because that person has broke them down to a point where they think that they're not worthy. They took away their self-worth. They start believing what the other person say. They start thinking that they are what that other person said that they are. Okay, it's easy to do that to a person that you break down, because if you're dealing with somebody that's strong and mentally strong, then it's, you can't do that. When you start chipping away at them, when you start really breaking them down piece by piece, you are now getting into their mental state of mind. And once you've entered here, now you got control. You could pretty much do whatever you want. It's just like slavery. It ain't got to be physical, it could be mental, right? So they might think that they're not worthy enough to move on or to find somebody else. So who would want me? Because this person said I'm not nothing, or I'm not pretty, or I'm not, I don't bring this to the table. I'm not this, I'm not that. Nobody would want me anyway, so I might as well stay here.
You gotta look at the Tyler Perry movie.
Big shout out to Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry, that's all his movies are based around.
Not all of them. Not all of them. I can't.
No, I don't know. I mean, is it that's a hard one, It's that breaking somebody down that takes time. You really got to
Some
put some
people
time.
do it. So I've seen it done.
Me
I've had it done to me, but I'm such like a strong-minded person, and when I say done to me, it was an attempt. But like I'm so like, you can't do it to me. I'm a very strong-headed person.
Mm-hmm.
So what you mean? Mm-hmm. I'm a very strong-headed person, so it just didn't work with somebody like me. But if you get somebody at a vulnerable state, though, and if you wait and you learn them and you study them, see, a lot of times people go into relationships and what they do is they talk about their personal stuff too much. I've been through this, I've been through that, and they start telling them all they past, and now this person is taking notes.
You got to
because you don't know what you're dealing with.
With somebody like that.
Well, when you're dealing with people that are narcissists, then they will do it. When you're dealing with somebody that might be a sociopath, then they will do it. If they feel nothing, they don't give a damn, and they coming after you, then yes, yeah. Why wouldn't they? They want to be able to basically
control.
There you go.
It's about control.
It is. It's about that. And it's about control. It's about manipulation. It's about making that person feel like, hey, you ain't nothing without me. I've seen people do it.
Yeah, I've seen it too. I've seen it in the ways that, like women do it to men. They do it with the control thing. It was, I'm having your baby.
Oh my God.
Now you're like, I got you ain't going nowhere.
well, listen, I don't see how women could do that, because why that makes no sense to me, because men, they still leave anyway, right? Most of the time, if a man is going to leave, they're going to leave. They're not going to sit there and say, I'm staying around. Some men might stay around, but most men, they checked out before. You know that.
Yeah. So, I'm saying they try. It's like, you can't knock them for not trying.
Basically. But yeah, so fear of solitude is something very serious. I think when we talk about why people stay in situations, they don't feel that they deserve better, And the crazy thing is, what's so sad about that is I watched someone do that to somebody, and it's like sometimes it sticks with people. You know what I mean? Like, even when they move on. And this is what I mean when I talk about healing before getting into another relationship, as I spoke about on the previous episode. Because sometimes people can, they might even take a little time, but they're not really taking time to heal. See, that's the part I ain't even tap into yet. I'm taking time to myself, but are you taking time to heal? Are you reflecting?
Because I did that. I took time, but I didn't take time to heal myself. To say, let me get all of these old bad habits and stuff that I didn't want to deal with out the way.
Right.
When I met you, I was still in my unhealed phase. Like I said, sometimes I was dealing with therapy, but I wasn't taking that shit serious.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I'm going here. Like I said, I'd sit there and we look at each other for the whole hour and then walk out and say, good session.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's crazy.
But then also, it takes a therapist to actually want to do their job.
Right. That's very true.
Because then, you get in there and the therapist is looking at you and you're looking at that therapist and y'all ain't saying nothing. That therapist ain't doing a job.
No, they just there. That's why you can't get in a profession that you really don't love. Yep. You're there for the paycheck. Then you're not serving the purpose that you're there for. And that's crazy.
And when I say, and I'm gonna say this because people would think, most people go to therapy because somebody told them they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like me, I was like, yeah, you need to go to therapy. But and to me, that's why I was going. It wasn't something I wanted. It was just something somebody said, hey, I think you should do it.
Somebody.
Yeah. You need to get that shit off your chest.
It's me. He said somebody. Like, I'm sitting right here. Like, who are we talking about? You talk about me. Just say me. It's okay.
But when I finally decided it was something I wanted to do for me, then it started to work.
There you go. Because that's important. Very important.
Mm-hmm.
He said, But what I was saying before is that people can chip away and break you down, and that can stay with you for a long time. And if you're taking time for yourself, but like you said, not taking time to get therapy, not taking time to make sure that you heal and you do the things that you have to do for yourself so that you don't go into the next relationship with your unhealed scars, then yeah, that could be a problem. Mm-hmm. So, don't be afraid. I would tell people, if you need to leave a relationship, don't be afraid to leave. But also understand something. Check yourself also too. Because a lot of times people, they don't check themselves. And they're quick, like I said before, we spoke about it previously before, they're quick to blame other people. If you're in a relationship, you should be in it because you love the person. Here's what I would say. There is no such thing as a perfect person, right? No such thing.
Yeah, I would say this too, for people who want to get out of a relationship or they think they're too scared to get out of a relationship. If you do decide to do it, do that shit safely, especially if you're dealing with somebody who got issues,
Right.
Like what you call a narcissist or a psychopath. Yeah, you want to do that shit right.
Psychopath, sociopath, right. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Now, I wanted to give a positive note on just relationships and stuff like that, like why people should stay, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't even know what love is, and you know what? Let's talk about that really quickly, because most people never experience love. So what happens is they go into all these different relationships not knowing how to love. That's why when we spoke about love languages in the other episode, that's like the first step. Mm-hmm. Understand, learn your love language, and learn your partner's love language. But now let's talk about what love means to you, right? Let's talk about what love really means, because it could be different for everybody. But at the end of the day, this is what I always say. Mm-hmm. For me, I think you cannot deny that this is not love. If you're with a person and they had nothing to offer you but themselves, and you was happy and okay and content with that, then that means you love that person for who they are. Because looks fade away. Money gets spent. Problems will happen. Some people could get fat. Some people could get skinny. Some people could get sick and not even look the same. Some people might get into an accident and can't walk. Are you going to love that person and take care of that person? Or are you going to hold them down? You understand? So for me, I always felt like I have to say, do you love me at my roughest times, at my ugliest moments, at my, my worst moments? If you can't love me at my worst moments, at my ugliest moments, at my sick and looking crazy, not doing my hair, not, you know what I'm saying? No, nothing, just looking real crazy, then you don't love me. You love the well put together.
The idea of you.
Right. And this is why I always say, for me, that I don't allow, I'm at a point in my life where I don't care what type of guys is there or looking or showing an interest in me. If they find me attractive to them, I don't seek attention like that from men And I'm never like, oh my God, this is like making me feel good, So yeah, I'm getting attention because at the end of the day, that doesn't do nothing for me. You know why? Because what do you like? You like what you see? If you don't know me, you don't know my mentality. You don't know how I act, how I think, how I move. You don't even know my characteristics. So that doesn't do nothing. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, so for me, and I'm just speaking like for us, like, I know in the past, like we had little issues here and there about certain things. And, you know, even if I was like I know I'm a talkative person and I'm like a friendly person. I talk to everybody. Sometimes it can send the wrong message, but I'm really just being friendly. But at the end of the day, like I'm happy and content with where I am. And just because somebody might say something to do something, I like that doesn't do anything for a person with my mindset is what I'm saying. I can't say that everybody's like that, but for me, I understand that the outside is the outside. What's important, even though this might sound cliche, but it's not. What's important is what's on the inside. So, do you have to offer me love? Do you have to offer me compassion? Or are you going to be there through thick and thin? Are you going to be there when I'm sick, when I need you, this and that? Those things is what matter to me. Okay? So, and even though, of course, nobody wants to be with somebody who they're not physically attracted to, but honestly, for me, that's not it, and it's not everything. It's not everything.
I'm gonna say, you know what? Because I could agree with that, but I'm gonna tell you what a lot of issue is
Mm-hmm.
with relationships. People they focus more on the in love part than the love part.
Break that down. I need to understand what you mean by that. Because in love is very important to me as well.
In love is the
Mhm.
facade of love. That's the benefit of love. Like, and I'm gonna explain to you, because it's not real. It's only what a person provides to you to make you feel love. You
I think
understand?
that's your taking it. I don't know if I 100% agree with that.
Like, I'm gonna say, in love is the things you receive, right? Like women, and I'm gonna give
This
y'all
is your take.
yeah, I'm gonna
You
give
have your
y'all an
take.
example of it. When a man shows you he's in love with you, he got to do little things. He got to bring flowers, open the door. He got to do the in love things. That's the emotion of love. Because women need to feel it. You ever hear a man when they say they love a woman, they don't say I'm in love. They love you because you're not bringing to the table what he has to do.
Mm.
In order for a man to love a woman, he has to feed her emotion.
Mm.
And that's where the in love comes in. He has to make you feel good. He has to be able to, and it don't have to be all the time, but he has to show you that, yeah, here's some flowers here. I thought about you, tell you you're beautiful. That's the thing that a lot of times people focus on.
Yeah, you know what? I think I kind of agree with you in a sense because um, I, when I think about it, if somebody's like, okay, well, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, it's because there's something lacking there that is a disconnect with emotions and stuff like that. Because I've been there, right? So thinking of that, it does make sense. Now, I guess I would say, whose fault is it if a person felt like they was not in love?
I'm gonna say it depends, right? Because we are supposed to. That's where the love language comes in.
Mm.
Because now you're looking for something to make you feel emotionally connected, and that's where the in love comes in. Because that's the emotion of love.
Mm.
Because honestly, when you love somebody, you could be with somebody 20 years. That emotion is not going to be there every day.
Right. Exactly. That's very
But
true.
that in love, that emotion of being in love, they do something that makes you feel, oh, this is good. I feel good about this.
Right.
That's
Right.
that extra part of it. But it's not real, because if you only focus on that, then you don't love the person. You only love what they bring to you, not how they feel about you.
Now, here's a slight thing of why I think it's like it's an iffy situation. You know what I mean? It's like, like I get where you're coming from. I agree to a certain extent because I can understand the emotion behind it. I can understand like all of the extra things that you're bringing. But then this is where I say, hold up, there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And let me explain why. You love your mother, right?
Yeah.
Are you in love with your mother?
No.
Okay, that's the difference.
No. I'm gonna tell you why.
Yeah, because you can love someone, but you could be in love with somebody else. Love is different. You don't love your mother the same way you love your wife. You don't love your wife the same way you love your kids. You don't love your kids the same way you love your siblings, right? There's different types of love. So for me, when I'm thinking about that, that's what makes me disagree to a certain extent, because it's like, hold on, you got to understand that there's different types of love here.
Yeah, you just help me break it down even more further.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because the love you have for your mother is unconditional. That doesn't come with a condition. When you love somebody that's outside of somebody, that's a condition. That means it comes with something. It has to do something for that to be there, right?
Yes.
So that's where the in love part comes in, because now you got to do something to feed that emotion and create a condition. In love, when it comes with another person, it comes with conditions. This is what you got to bring. This is what you got to make me feel. This is how you got to feed my love language. These things, that's the condition of being to separate and being in love with your kid, loving your kids, then loving your spouse.
Love should be unconditional, though.
It should be. That's why I use the word in love. That's what the in love is. The in love is the condition of love.
I mean, understood, but not 100% agreeable. That's all I'm going to say.
Right, because
I understand what you're saying.
The reason why I say it's conditions,
sense, right? To a certain extent,
because you can fall out of in love.
Right, but see,
a lot of women use it. I'm not in love with you. I love you. I'm not in love with you, because that's the condition.
Here's the thing.
You're not meeting
you can have that. You can have that same situation with your parents.
Right. But
so it can come with conditions. The love between a child and a parent, it can come with conditions. Siblings' love can come with conditions.
Right. But
so it's it's the difference. You got to understand where you're at with the individual.
We going way further then. We going deep into it when you start to go that far.
Well, I mean, listen, let's dig deep. That's what we here for. So, we got to understand this imperfect marriage stuff.
That's why I'm trying to say to you that you have to understand that it is nothing wrong with saying in love comes with a condition, because it does. That means you have to meet an emotion. You have to feed an emotion. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And that's where people get confused, because they're not understanding that is a condition. That is a condition of being with somebody. The in love part is the condition of love.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that.
So when people say that love is unconditional, it's not true.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's your take on it. I mean, I agree to a certain extent. Like I said, I think that it gets deeper than that. But we ain't gonna go that deep. So let's talk about. We're still talking about fear a little bit. So let's talk about a couple of things: fear of change, right, and fear of judgment. Let's put those two together. Most of the time, people stay in relationships for the sake of what? Because they're fear of change. Everything that they know. They don't want anything new. They don't, of starting over, all of that stuff. So they'd rather stay in a toxic situation than to move on, because they're afraid to just change their situation that they know is bad. You know what I mean? And then it comes in with the judgment. What are people going to think if I have a failed relationship, a failed marriage? I'm starting over, this and that. Oh, I don't know how to hold a marriage together or a relationship together. I'm going to feel like a failure. All of these different things and these different emotions that people go through. You know what I mean? So those are the things that I talk about in this book. And those are the things that some people go through, and they don't leave because of that. What is your take on that?
I'm going to say that's, I was guilty of that. In my last relationship, it was more of, I would say it wasn't fear of change. It was a fear, I had a kid. So it was like, I'm staying in this relationship. Even though we weren't working out, it was more to make sure of that I wanted my kid to grow up with his father, right? So that becomes the hard part of it, because it's like, when you do that, now you're changing everything. You're changing the whole dynamic of being around your kids, So that, I think for men, that's probably, men who want to be with their kids, that's the hardest part. Anyway, for men, that's, when a relationship ends, especially if it's not something we want, we have kids, we have everything. It's like, yo, do we really want to end it where we the ones that lose out a lot? We lose the house, the kids, everything. So that's
So,
that fear of change.
mm, so, so again, staying because of holding on to materialistic things and choosing
Your child
things.
is not material.
Wait, no, I'm not
Oh,
talking about. You
okay.
said we lose the house and stuff. You're choosing things over happiness. Over happiness. Um, that's not a good reason to stay.
No, it's not.
Because you can always rebuild over again.
That's what I'm saying.
And things is not important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, a child is important, but things are not.
I would like to say, and that's why I said to you I was guilty of that, because it was more about staying because of my son than actually being happy.
Okay. Let's see. We talked about judgment. Let's talk about fear of failure and fear of the unknown. That's the last two things about fear. Let me move on. So, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. So, when I think I already spoke on judgment, what would people say? What would people think? I had a failed relationship. I had a failed marriage. Some people like they're religious, so some religions do not want you to have a divorce. So now your religion is judging you. Family might be judging you. Friends might be judging you. It's so many things that people are afraid of when it comes to, a relationship, that they stay to sometimes please other people, you know? So they're so worried about what everybody else thinks that they become, and I use this term a lot, y'all, that they become a prisoner to other people's thoughts. And they are not free. They're not even free within themselves because they're staying stuck somewhere where they're not happy at. So, and then fear of the unknown, like what's going to happen if I leave? Will I find somebody else? Will I be happy? Will I end up with somebody else worse? Is there somebody else there for me? Can I do these things? Can I not do these things? Like, you know what I mean? It's a fear of, being attached to socially through that individual. So it's fear of the unknown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I must say this though. If people, when if you're unhappy in a relationship, and a lot of people do this, as soon as they feel like they're unhappy for a moment, they think the relationship is over.
Right.
When reality,
which is why we have a lot of failed marriages.
Yeah, and when reality is just a phase. Sometimes, what you might not be happy for at that moment could be something that can be fixed. If you can't sit down and talk about your what's wrong or what you're unhappy about, that's where the problem is. Because a lot of times, like I said, people get stuck on I'm not happy. When honestly, sometimes it just might be that you're not happy, and it might be therapy you need. But you're putting it on somebody else to fix. And that now your fear of, if now I'm not happy, now I got to go somewhere else, but I want to stay here without trying to fix it.
Right. Yeah. Well, what advice would you give? Again, you experienced this before. I experienced it before. Fear of leaving, fear of the unknown, fear of solitude, all of that stuff. A lot of people have fear, and a lot of people are motivated by fear. They make a lot of decisions, even when it doesn't have to do with relationships, off of fear. So what would you say to someone, or what advice would you give based off of your own experience?
Well, I'm going to say this in my previous relationship. Fuck it. Dive into the unknown. That's how I met you, and I'm good now, Sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. Just go into it and say, you know what, take a chance. Right. But I'm going to say some of the mistakes I make, what I'm going to say is know what you want before you go into the next relationship, though. Because sometimes we all go in, like, for us, we made it through it, right? Because we didn't take the time to say, hey, this is what I expect, this is what I want. We did the minimum. Right. Right, but we made it through growing. But after you reach a certain age, you don't have time to be like playing I want to wait to figure you out game. Right, yeah. Nobody ain't got time for that. We are not trying to be the old people in the club. Yeah. Okay. You know what you want from the beginning, set your boundaries, set your standards.
Yes.
So that you understand when this person knows, all right, if these are your red flags, then I know, all right, I'm not staying if that shows up. If I see these red flags, you understand I'm not going to deal with that.
Okay. For me, it's I would say, if you're a person out there that is staying in a relationship because of fear of being alone, fear of not knowing what your future will hold, um, all of the above, what we discussed, the first thing you have to do is trust yourself. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. Not to and look, I know this is the imperfect marriage. We're discussing topics from my book, so I don't want the people to think that it's all about just like leave, leave, leave. No, we're talking about the book, but we're talking about reasons why you should stay as well. You know what I'm saying? I just want to point that out. But trust yourself, believe in yourself, and remember this: if you are afraid to leave and you know that you should, and you don't know what the future holds, you had a life before that person was there, and you survived that. So you will survive if you leave, if you need to leave. So a lot of times people forget who they were, and they forget about themselves so much. They be so indulged in another person that they lose themselves. You understand what I'm saying? So there was a time when, that person, you didn't even know that person. Look, that person could have made somebody better. You know what I mean? I believe that at the end of the day, if you find the right person, they will help you grow, evolve. You'll see your life change before your eyes with certain stuff. You might go through some stuff. Shit, that's what we had to go through. But we've grown and again, still go through stuff. But at the end of the day, if you gotta leave, leave. But if it's not serious, then stay. Work it out. If it's not serious issues.
You have to know what serious is, though. Because serious is an opinion.
Well, what you mean? Before we move on to the next topic.
The reason I say it is because abuse is serious.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes. But somebody might be like, I don't like your friends, so I can't deal with you, That's not serious.
Well, and that goes back to this. People not really understanding what marriage is about, okay? What marriage is based on. They don't get it. Some people really don't understand. I did not understand, So, yeah, I knew that, okay, get married, this and that, this is what you're supposed to do and all that. But then when you're in it, you're learning. You're still learning what it's like to be in the marriage.
50 years in, you're still learning.
Yes.
People don't understand that.
Yes.
Because people change. We all change as we get older.
There you go.
Our needs become different. Our roles become different.
Yes, absolutely.
And some people focus on the wrong thing. They're not looking at the person. Because I've seen people leave a relationship that the person is loving and doing everything they are, and because they don't know who they are, they walk away from a relationship and be mad. Like, yeah, I'm not happy in this relationship, not realizing that it's you. Therapy is the most important aspect of being in a relationship because, like I said, you can walk away from a relationship where somebody's trying to do everything right by you, and you just so much into not seeing it that you think it's something wrong.
Sometimes people outgrow the person that they're with, and people do grow apart. That happens. Now give me time to speak on it. Now, first let's talk about outgrowing someone. First, because I think we spoke about this before. The only reason a person can outgrow someone else is if they don't have a connection. Because that means that there's something that is getting majority of the time and that is fulfilling that person while the other one is not really either doing nothing or not involved or not connecting with their partner. So what happens is they grow apart, and one person could be doing this, that, and the third, or even evolving, and the other person could stay stuck. So my advice to anybody that's going through that is, if you really love the person, then you have to come back together, figure out, okay, how do we fix this? Okay, this is how I feel. I feel like you're not there. I feel like we're not connecting. What does that? It all leads to communication. It all goes back to that, because people grow apart and outgrow people because they're not communicating, and the other person have no idea that they feel that way. So somebody can be like, I didn't even know you felt like that. You
I was about to
understand?
say that to you. What if somebody is telling you that? They're telling you what they feel, what they're telling you, but that person is still not listening.
Which
And
one?
that,
What do you mean?
like, say the person who's feeling left out, or because sometimes, and it happens. You get caught up in your work. You get caught up in it. You come, some people go to, they work all day, come home, they too tired, they go to sleep. Right.
Right.
That's where the connection.
Most people do that in today's time.
Right, but that's where the connection is lost, because now it's like, yo, I'm trying to tell you, you're working so hard that you don't see me.
Right.
What does that person do if that person is not listening, right?
What does what person do?
The person who's telling, hey, you don't see me. You're spending too much time at work. You're more focused on work or whatever else is going on that you don't see me. The connection, I'm gonna be honest. When I hear this, because it kind of annoys me.
Mm-hmm.
When people go, oh, there's no connection, you gotta stop and think. There was a connection at one point, because that's how you ended up together. That's how you ended up in a marriage. There was a connection. The problem with it is where figuring out where the connection got lost and bringing it back.
Right. Well, you see, the thing is communication. It goes back to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? It goes back to communication, one. And it also goes to, guess what, guys? What you see on social media is not real, right? It's like, remember, we did the sip and paint. We had our little picnic outside and stuff, and that was our date for me and you. And we had fun with it and stuff like that. But somebody, I'm just using that as an example. Somebody might go on social media, look at all these things, and then they'll start judging their relationship based off of what they see online, and then they become, admiring and then envious, and then that turns into jealousy, and now it's like, then it brings problems in their home, like, hey, you're not doing this, look at this. These people, it's like watching TV and saying, look at this, but they don't realize that, guess what, you're not seeing the other part. You're not seeing the problems, the issues, unless people like putting that part on social media. Most people don't, but some people will to get attention. You know what I mean? But again, at the end of the day, when you look at that whole picture, people have to understand all relationships have problems, have issues, and they have to learn how to navigate through all of those issues that they have. And the only reason that people can grow apart is because they are growing apart, because there's a lack of communication and there's a lack of intimacy, and intimacy on all levels. Not because something intimate could be just sitting down together watching a movie or eating dinner together at the table. You can create intimate moments in many different ways. So people need to be, I tell people all the time, yo, there's no way that if you can't think of something, we got TikTok. You could go how to have a great date night with my spouse, and what's the ideas. You're gonna get so many ideas. Like we have access to so many things to help us, in situations where it's like, damn, I wouldn't know what to do in this situation. This is why I'm going to tell you now, fellas, if you have a lady out there, you have no excuse to not know what to do. When you could go on TikTok and all these platforms or Instagram and look up ways how to do this, that, and the third. So if you growing apart now, it's because you probably scrolling on social media, looking at the AI fake women pages, thinking that they real, trying to holler at them. I don't know. So you growing apart from, your spouse who's right there in your face. You're not putting the time into them. You're not communicating with them. That can happen.
Well, I'm gonna say too, you also got to be careful of the friends, because some friends, and I've experienced it myself, where the relationship, relationship you're in, their friends are going through something. You know, so when they're going through something, they bring that something to the spouse. No, I'm not, and I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking in my last, and that was an issue I had in my last marriage. It was that, you know, the friend, her and her husband's going through it, and now she's dragging. Oh, we got to go out. I need to get away from him, and now she's bringing you. That person is bringing you out with them. To because they're going through it, and now your relationship, you're focused on it, you know.
You know, that's a really, really, really good point you made there, and I think, you know, we need to talk about that real quick before we move on to the next topic. So it's okay to have single friends. It's not okay to do single things with your single friends. You can't say, hey, if you're not married, we can't be friends. You could have a friend that has been married and then they got divorced. You're not going to not be their friend no more because they're single. But you have to understand and set boundaries with your friends, and they need to respect you and your marriage. Because, see, a lot of people, and this is what y'all got to be careful with, a lot of people, they'll be okay in their situation and it's all good, but as soon as their situation mess up, they don't mind messing your situation up, okay? They should never ask their friend to be in the club or doing single people things with them. If they do that, that means that they don't care about your marriage, and they're really ready.
That's why their relationship ended.
Basically, they ready to mess up your whole situation so that they could just have a friend, so they ain't doing something on their own. They need that sidekick, that person. Now, yeah, if you want to, you could go. I say there should be things of respect level, especially when you're married, when hanging out with other people who are single. Meaning, like, okay, if I'm hanging out with you and you're single, we're not going to the club like that. I'm not hanging out. Because mostly everybody in the club, first of all, at my age, you really shouldn't be doing that. People our age are more lounge, fall back. We're not like in the club like that.
Even in the lounge, it's, you know,
but
the lounge setting, right, at our age, we're looking something more relaxed, more chill. But that don't mean that single people aren't looking for somebody in there.
Yeah, but there could be single people everywhere looking for somebody. But I'm talking about the atmosphere that you put yourself in. Meaning, like, if I'm going out, hey girl, come on, let's go out to eat. Let's go out, you know, we going out to eat, we get a drink or two. I don't see nothing wrong with that, right? Because that's an intimate time with your friend, right? So you're hanging with your friend and you're being supportive and you're giving your friend time, because you have to have a social life outside of your relationship. It's extremely important, right? But, you know, now when we talk about that, as far as going out, okay, we could do that. If the friend want to go, you know, like I said, lounge, the reason I compare lounge to club, different vibe. A little lounge, maybe, oh, this is a nice spot. It's a chill spot. We go there, we sit, we talk, and then we leave, you know, whatever. That's still cool, too. Club is different. Most people in the club is standing there, turning up, dancing, doing all this stuff. Now, if you're there by yourself in the atmosphere, in a setting like that, most people are going to think that you're single. Because who's in the club like that in a relationship? You understand? Like, people invite me to clubs all the time still now, and I be like, yo, I'm married, and that's not really my vibe. If you want me at the club, like, this is from the Ground Up Productions, and I will definitely pull up to the club if you hire us and you need to get a recap of your event. This is what we do. These are the services that we offer. Right? This is part of our production company. We offer those services, but I'm not there for that. Okay? When I'm looking for a turn-up time, I'd rather it be at my house or people that I know. We're in a comfortable setting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, stuff like that. And we ain't worried about that. We having a good time with the people that we know, and everybody goes home or whatever in the night. We're not in the dangerous atmosphere, and you don't have to worry what's happening with your spouse or what's going on. It's a better setting. So, yeah, overall, I know I went off with it, but I'm just saying that was a great point that you brought up, because a lot of times people don't know how to set boundaries with their single friends. And you have to understand, if they were not single before, they knew how to stay in position, hopefully, where they did not do that. And if they didn't stay in position where they didn't put themselves out there, that is probably, like you said, why they're single now.
And also, don't take advice from single people.
I can't say that.
I'm gonna say,
You know why I can't say that? I'm sorry. Let me just say. I just want to put. I can't say that because sometimes people could get in a relationship, learn so much in that relationship, leave that relationship, but they got so much experience from being in it. Now they're single. They might have some great advice that they could tell somebody of experiences or something that they've been through. I don't judge somebody because they're single. You never know what the reason is. If it was them, if it was someone else, and even if they say, you know what, it was me. Let me tell you what not to do. Let me tell you what I did that I shouldn't have done, which is why I'm in this predicament. Accountability.
yeah, I'm gonna say this. They could tell me all of that, right? So why are you still single?
They ain't found the right one yet.
Obviously, you haven't fixed you yet.
No, that doesn't mean they have. See, I disagree with that. You can't tell me that every single person out there is a bad person. That's
No, I'm not saying
true.
they're a bad person.
Yeah, but maybe they learned their lesson, and that now this is on the flip side. There's many different reasons why people could be single, but maybe they learned their lesson because they know, okay, I messed up. This is what I've done in the past, so I have to fix myself. But I also know who I am, and because I've grown and I know what I deserve, I'm not just going to pick anybody to be with. I have to pick the right person. So I'd rather stay single and be by myself before I quickly jump into a relationship just to say I got somebody.
And they shouldn't be giving out any advice.
You crazy. I totally
because I'm gonna be honest. I've had people come to me for advice, right, on marriage, right, and I always tell them in the very beginning when they ask me, it's my advice might not work for you,
right?
This is how it may have worked for me, but it may not work for you. But I'm gonna give you because I always play. When somebody asks me a question or want advice, I always do both sides. I play devil's advocate.
Okay.
I might say, hey, this is what worked for me, but you might have to look at yourself to see why you're in that situation. Because like I said, I stand on it. You create the person you don't like in a relationship. No matter how much we like, oh, this. If you was happy in that relationship before, somewhere down the line, you open the door for the person you don't like. You made that person to where you don't like them no more. You gave them that space to where you don't like them.
So then, if let me ask you this: if you're saying that the person created the person that they don't like, then does that mean that they should stay with that person?
Depending on what it is. It depends on what it is. If you created a person, and I would even say even in abusive relationships, if you allow the abuse to continue to go on without saying, you know what, I'm going to fight back, I'm going to stand up for myself, now you've created that person to continue to think that that's okay.
Right. I think that's honestly in any situation,
right.
Not just abuse, but anything
I was
that
using
you do.
Abuse an example. That was just an example.
No. I know. I'm just saying at the end of the day, that situation applies to every situation. If you do something or you allow a person to get away with something over and over and over again, you are actually teaching them that is how they can treat you.
Yep.
You're showing them that this is okay. You have to now set boundaries also within your relationship and within your marriage. Like, hey, this is acceptable. This is not acceptable. I am not going to allow you to talk to me that way, treat me that way, do these things to me, or whatever, make me feel this type of way. I don't like it. You need to respect it and you need to change it. But I'm going to tell you this. Most people have to understand that if you love someone and you're asking for that and you allow it to go on for a long time, you have to give that person time to change because that became a habit and habits take time to break. But you do have to see the effort being put into trying to change.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, I don't like this. Stop it right now. Okay, that might be easy for you to say, but if anybody that have a habit out there, let me see you stop it just like that. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that a habit has to be broken. And that means that sometimes you got to remind them, hey, you're doing that. And then they have to, okay, all right, you know what? I apologize. Let me switch it up. Or, you know what? You're right. And let me do this. Now you're okay. They're taking accountability and they're acknowledging what they're doing and they're making the change.
I was about to say, because first, after you tell that person, you have to acknowledge how you feel. Because sometimes people think, well, I don't feel like I disrespected you, so it ain't disrespect. And
Right.
I have to, I always say this to you, just because you don't feel like, I'm not saying you directly.
But we had that conversation before.
Just because you don't feel like it's disrespect doesn't mean it's not. You can't tell somebody what respect feels like.
Right.
Because it's real to them at that moment.
There you go. Because we've had that.
Yep.
We've had that conversation before. At the end of the day, this is the imperfect marriage. We're talking about it because we're married, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been together for almost 20 years? Okay. Been married
over 20 years now.
For 13 years?
Yep.
13 going to be, wait, what month is this?
I'm
like, what month? Yes. So a little over 13 years.
14. We'll be 14 this year.
Right, but yeah. But that's why I said what month is it? So
yeah, 3 months, 3
4 months.
In 3 months.
Okay, in 3 months. In 3 months, we would have been married for 14 years, and we've been together for almost 20 years. Very rare in today's time. I mean, even with celebrities, most marriages don't last that long. I mean, this is not a shot at anybody, but just think. We're talking. Look at Remy and Papoose. Or Will and Jada, like people who we as, black people look to at one point as, hey, this is, black people's black love relationships. This is what we are looking to be. But look at how their relationships turned out. Or look at the fact that, like Will and Jada, they had their problems, and everybody do. So nobody should really be judging them on their problems. That's their business, what they choose to deal with and what they shouldn't deal with. But if they put it out there, you can't have people going to judge it, right? But when you look at Remy and Papoose, it's like, oh, snap. So Remy and Pat, everybody was looking at that. Black love, black love. We was all turned up. It was inspiring. We loved that. We love to see black love. But now it's like, oh, snap. Like, okay, now everybody's like, what happened? And then people get so emotionally wrapped up in other people's relationship and problems, they start not liking the other person. Nah, that's their personal business. You know what I mean? I don't like neither one of them. I think both of them is probably at fault. But what I'm gonna say is that's the problem with people and y'all on social media. You believe everything you see, and remember something. Like me and my daughter was having a talk. Instagram, all that stuff is a highlight of somebody's life. It is not their life. When somebody is creating a brand, that's the image that they're going to put out there. That's exactly why when I said we're going to do this show, it was two things I said. If we can't be authentic, I don't want to do it. If we can't be real, I don't want to do it. If we can't really be honest and talk about some of our problems and struggles and things that we don't like, even if the people watching don't like what we said, then I can't do it. Because at the end of the day, why are we doing it? To be fake? It's already enough fake people on social media as it is. You know what I'm saying? So no, we are going to call this the imperfect marriage. But we still here, we still thriving, we still making it work. That is what is important.
I'm going to tell you this. The failure in any marriage is looking at somebody else. If you're looking at celebrities and you're basing your relationship off of a celebrity's marriage, you fail from the beginning.
There you go.
You already failed. Because I'm going to tell you, because you brought up Remy and Papoose, and I was one of the people, and it was only because I didn't look at them as that's what marriage is supposed to look like.
Okay.
Because they just put out the image of black love. That's what was more important to me than their marriage. The image of black love.
Right.
So because their song Black Love was my ringtone for you.
Right.
So now I got to change my ringtone.
You is petty.
Because
Okay?
the image
Why?
because they represented the image of black
You're
love.
too emotionally wrapped
No,
up in somebody else's
no, I'm
problems.
not. It's
The
not their
song
problem.
is still dope. Why can't we take those words and we show that?
Because it's their voice now that I hear.
Oh my God.
You know,
See,
that's what it's not about them. Let me finish.
it is.
No, it's not. It's not about them and their marriage. It's their voice. When I hear them now telling me what black love is, y'all didn't show that. I don't want to hear your voice tell me that.
You know what they showed us? I'm going to tell you what they showed us. They showed us that they were human.
Yeah, that's true.
And people need to understand that. They showed us that, you know what they had? They had an imperfect marriage.
No,
Okay.
they have a divorce now.
He
They married.
straight hated her. He said, no, case closed.
But see, the thing is, I want you to understand, because maybe I don't want it to be confused. I don't care about their marriage at all. Whether they stay together or fall apart, it's not me.
Okay.
My thing is the hearing it. When I hear their voices now, when you ring my phone and I hear their voices, it's like, no, I don't want to hear this no more.
You're disappointed.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in
Why?
the message now, because like I said, the
message is the same.
We all have black love. Black love is important, right?
Or love for y'all white people out there. Love is important for y'all too.
Black love is important. Love is important, right? But when I hear them, I made that song. Because that song had a message to me, And then when you hear how messy their marriage got, it's like that's what y'all call black love, and your voice. It's like I said, it's to me, it's just the voice of them saying it. It's like if somebody else would have said it, now I'm gonna look for somebody else saying black love in the same thing. But it's not, I can't hear their voices. That's all it is with me. I don't want to hear their voices.
Here, let me say this. This is a prime example, y'all, why you need to not always put all your personal business on social media. Okay?
Yep.
You cannot put all of your business on social media, every single problem that you have. You just can't do it. Because at the end of the day, people are going to judge you on it. They're going to judge you on the problems that you have because of the image that you put out. This is why I like people like I have to say, even though I'm not fond of everything she do, what I liked about Cardi B is that she put her imperfections out there and she made herself relatable to people. And see, when you do that, now you leave no room for people to judge you. She be like, I'll put my own stuff out there. And you know what? Listen, like I said, I always say everything she do, I'm not about that life. But when I listen to her talk and say that, I be right rocking with her because I'm saying, you know what? That's right. When you put yourself out there and you don't care what nobody thinking, you say, I expose my damn self. There you go. I'm not giving you none of that for you to be able to use against me. So yeah, is that, whatever the case may be. And I know I said, like, don't put it out there, but if you're going to put it out there, then you got to be willing to deal with what's going to come with it. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to tell you, I rock with Cardi B for 2 reasons. One, she's from the Bronx.
Oh, God.
But 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, because she was more authentic. I think when I look at Offset, right, he's the fool. Because if you're looking at her now, and now you're mad about the things you want to put her out there as being a stripper and all of that, you knew that when you met her. You want to disrespect her now, but that's who you decided to marry. So you're the fool.
He's a fool because he married her?
No, you're the fool because now you want to say that that's all these negative things about her and use that as for the reason why this is what you are. Nah, you knew that.
I want to say this to you guys like Remy Ma, Papoose, Cardi B, and Offset. Y'all got kids. Them kids it's on the internet. It's going to forever be there. Maybe you guys don't care, but you decided there was something that you seen in each other. You decided to get married. You decided to actually make a family. Why would you put all of that on social media for your kids to grow up and have to remember how disrespectful you was to the mother or how disrespectful you was to the father? And if you want your kids to grow up to have a healthy relationship, keep that in-house. You're gonna have problems, but the world shouldn't know every little thing, and you shouldn't disrespect the person that you with for the world to see, because they have to go to school. Their friends is gonna see it. Their friends' parents is gonna see it, and it can affect your kids. So again, nobody has a perfect marriage. I've seen Denzel Washington speak on issues that he had in the past with his wife, but you didn't hear about it on social media. You know what I mean? People have problems, then you don't hear about it on social media. So, I don't know. What's your final thoughts?
I'm gonna say this with that, because on that thing right there, right? They're celebrities, right? Their problem is they have to explain. They want to have to explain to people what's going on in their personal life. That's where the issue is, because they feel like I need to because they want to try to beat out what the rumors are saying, instead of just letting the rumors be what the rumors are.
Right.
I don't give a fuck about the rumor. People want to tell, yeah, that's what the rumor is. Let it be that. But to get out there and go back and forth with, oh, this is what you did, this is what you did, this is what I did, or I don't like you, whatever they're saying to each other, it's stupid. Because now you're catering to an audience that really don't give a damn. They just want to say, hey, use something to talk about.
Basically, yeah. So, what's your final words?
That was it.
Okay, all right. Well, I said my final words. My final words, well, I said to all the celebrities out there with kids, I think, you had an imperfect marriage. It's gonna happen. No marriage is perfect. So learn to deal with and get through your situations, or learn to talk to people, the right people that you can talk to, who's not gonna make your situation worse than what it is. Talk to people who's gonna help you. Because if anybody want to see your family fall apart and wish that on your family and tell you to, do this, do that, don't talk to them people. Because guess what? I bet you they're at home with their family right now, and they went through a lot of bull crap too that they probably didn't tell you about, but they quick to tell somebody else what they should and shouldn't be doing with their own family. But they gonna be home with their husband or their wife or whoever, with their kids, living it up and having a great old time while they trying to destroy and throw dirt or whatever on your home and destroy and break up your family. So be careful who you talk to. Be careful who you listen to, because not everybody is going to give you good advice. Some people are there to hurt you. So be very careful with that. Everybody out there, at the end of the day, we're going to leave it like this, because you said you gave your final thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
When, at the end of the day, take accountability for your actions. Take accountability for the things that you say and do. Do not allow outsiders to mess up your happy home. And understand that no matter what you go through, you're not in it alone. Everybody goes through issues, some more than others, but you have to learn how to navigate and work through those issues so that you can have a healthy relationship or a healthy marriage. So I'm going to end it on that note. This is The Imperfect Marriage with Lady Miz and Ray. Before we go, I do want to remind y'all that I do have my book out. For the sake of, it is available on Amazon, okay? And it's a short book where I talk about why people stay in relationships for the sake of what. I'm sure this could be helpful to somebody who might be struggling, or somebody who might want to, say, maybe I should stay, or maybe I should leave. This might be the guide and the answer to what you need. So go look it up, For the Sake of, by Lady Miz. This here is The Imperfect Marriage with Lady Miz and Ray, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Girl, it's easy to love me now. Would you love me if I was down and out? But you still have love for me.
We hope you enjoyed your time with From the Ground Up Productions. We'll see you next time. Be sure to add our channel to your Roku list and listen to us on all streaming platforms.
From the ground up. From the ground up. there's only one way to go from here.